Good morning, everybody. I'm Marie Woodhead. I'm the Partner Marketing Manager for Konica Minolta. Thank you for joining us. Your time is very valuable and we do appreciate your attendance. This morning we have session 4 of part 1 of the Solutions webinar series. And we have 2 presenters for you this morning. We have Jamie, who is going to be looking after M-Files, which is a document management solution designed to boost productivity and efficiency. And then we have Roy Soper from Konica Minolta that will be looking at the accounts payable as a service. And I'm going to hand over to Jamie in just a second, but what I will say to you is we will have time for questions at the end of each of the sessions if you want to pop your questions in the chat box or in the questions box if possible. Thank you very much. Jamie, I'm handing over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. I noticed by the attendee list, there's some people that I've met before in the past. So yeah, nice to be presenting to you again. So just to introduce myself, my name is Jamie Bautista-Connor. I work for M-Files as a partner manager for our UK and Ireland space. As described, what I'd like to do is just provide a kind of very brief, short introduction to M-Files this morning. So just got a few slides where I can introduce you to our approach to information management. And then I want to dive into a short demonstration of the product as well. After the demonstration, I'm going to go through a slide just on maybe frequently asked questions and also things to maybe look out for. So M-Files, some of you may have come across it in the past. I know that a lot of you have come across document management systems in the past. There's a few things that kind of make M-Files a little bit different to the DMS that you may have been working with, and so I just want to take you through those. But first, just a bit about our platform. So our platform really enables clients to effectively manage their information, putting them in control of their business content, whether they be data objects or documents. Customers really see M-Files as a tool for organizational transformation. So it makes them more agile, competitive, and hopefully profitable as a result of M-Files improving how they manage information and do business. Now, a knowledge worker can benefit from having instant self-service to content and can really start to gain a sense of being in control of their work. Knowledge workers also have access to the silent knowledge embodied by historical archives that are no longer hidden in people's brains. So when people are leaving the business, maybe they're taking process knowledge with them, maybe they're taking client-based knowledge with them. Using something like M-Files or a DMS enables the organization to track how processing takes place, the information related to a client, a supplier, and becomes the central hub of information. So you're not having to go to a particular person because they know that client really well. Now, knowledge workers can work in contexts, which means they can kind of model their own world. They can amend M-Files with their own searches, what we call views. We can adjust workflows to how an organization wants to work. And with our platform, there's a number of different use cases that we can implement for. So HR, AP, contracts management, case management, the list goes on, project management, so on and so forth. So if you do come across a use case where you think M-Files and DMS or information management is of key, then please get in touch with your KM rep and they'll be able to introduce you to the M-Files platform and hopefully, maybe get us involved. Now, in terms of what makes us different, so M-Files is 100% metadata driven. So we use metadata not only to store content, but to drive workflow and automatically apply permissions to content. The key here is that we're not a location-based solution. We use metadata as the heartbeat. So when we're presenting information to users, it's metadata that's populating those searches. It's metadata that's populating those views, and I'll come on to that in the demonstration to show you. Now, when we're talking about federated governance, this is the connection of information silos. So an organization may be using a CRM system, an ERP, maybe documents are stored on a network drive or in SharePoint. mFiles is able to act as a central hub for information, so users don't need to know where it is, they can just find information based on what it is. Now, we usually find that organizations may not want to link all their repositories and systems at the initial instance, and that's okay. Just having that knowledge that mFiles is able to grow with them as a solution as time goes on is enough to kind of get that initial purchase over the line. When talking about AI, mFiles is able to automatically classify information, secure it using permissions. We're also able to use AI to optimize how mFiles presents information to users. So AI is kind of constantly learning in the background to understand how an organization uses the solution, how they're maybe classifying documents, and is able to kind of automate and help optimize that process over time. Now, when it comes to seamless content collaboration, mFiles obviously provides an all-encompassing solution for information management, especially when managing that information internally. But what we're able to also do with a component called HubShare is essentially collaborate with external parties as well. So we're using mFiles, core mFiles to manage information internally, so classifying information, storing it, allowing users to search and retrieve. But when collaborating with external parties, usually that documentation is maybe being shared over email. With HubShare, what we're able to do is provide an external facing portal, which again, I'll show you in the demonstration when we come onto that in a few slides time. And the other piece is the simple licensing model. So we're able to offer mFiles cloud-based, on-premise, also in a hybrid environment. So maybe if a client is using their own private cloud provider, we're able to implement mFiles into those environments. And the licensing model for mFiles is very simple to understand. We're talking a 1.5-page PDF for our price list. And so it's not, one of these suppliers that provides their price list over thousands of lines in an Excel spreadsheet. It's very easy to price up a solution with mFiles and, get that flinch test across to the customer so they can see if they want to pursue mFiles any further. Now, we're, enabling our clients to do, good things with the mFiles platform, and we're seeing kind of tangible results and ROI off the back of that. These are just few of the examples. So Crow UK, one of our more recent wins. It's a large implementation, so we're talking thousands of users here. But during the kind of business analysis that we completed, we were able to tangibly state that they were saving 2 million in operational efficiency gains. Head Energy experienced a 50% efficiency improvement with digital collaboration, so using mFiles and HubShare. Essentially, all of the clients that you see here, we do have case studies for, so if you did want to present those to clients as almost a way in, kind of foot in the door, then we have those to present back to you. Again, please get in touch with your KM rep if that's of interest. Now, when talking about integration with day-to-day applications, the Microsoft suite of products is one of those that you'll come across within pretty much every organization. So mFiles tightly integrates with the Microsoft suite of products. So whether a user is maybe just operating out of Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, more likely on a daily basis, what we're able to do is, rather than kind of drastically changing how they work, how they find information, we actually embed within these applications. So user adoption is really driven by this. mFiles is able to act as a central hub for information, and so if you want to search for a document, you don't necessarily have to come out of these applications. You can actually search mFiles whilst in these applications doing your kind of day-to-day work. And again, just a few kind of strap lines from some of our key customers. So speaking to the kind of ease of use state, so we chose mFiles for 4 reasons: configurability, scalability, ease of use, low implementation costs. That was from Fleisenkrupp elevators. M-Files has become an integral part of our business. Intelligent information management and quality management are now anchored in a system. So we've become that central hub of information for Bond 3D. And I won't go through these kind of one by one, just in the interest of time. I want to kind of dive into the demonstration, but we have a number of different case studies. Clients are happy to kind of shout about how happy they are with M-Files. If you are users of Gartner Peer Insights, then please do log on and search M-Files. If you haven't heard of Peer Insights before, essentially it is a kind of review board for customers. So you can kind of view different products, different DMS providers, and see the reviews directly from the customers. A good one for us is that 100% of our customers would recommend M-Files. That's a condition on, you know, the Peer Insights. That's a question, which is kind of great news for us because we're developing a product which is easy to use, adoptable, and is, you know, not just satisfying requirements in the early stages, but also expanding over time throughout an organization as they get used to the solution, how it works. So in summary, we kind of do things slightly different. There are similarities. Obviously, if you've been working with DMS over the years, then you know, management of information isn't new. How we approach it is kind of optimizing how organizations manage the content though. So we're not a location-based system, as I stated before. We use a metadata-driven approach to present information, lock down information, also to impact automatic workflows. And we're able to really kind of provide a tangible ROI as part of the sales engagement process. So taking you right from, you know, pre-sales, where we do the discovery, provide a demonstration tailored to those requirements, and help you kind of push it through the sales engagement. We're able to, over time, build that kind of use case and build that kind of business case to move forward with M-Files. And we're seeing that with the amount of customers that we've onboarded. We do have over 5,000, it's approaching 6,000 now, 6,000 customers in more than 100 different countries across the globe. So we are very much recognized as a visionary leader in this space, and we're hoping to become one of those top leaders over time. Hopefully that all makes sense. What I'd like to do now is just show you M-Files kind of in action. So as mentioned before, obviously in the interest of time, we've kind of given you a bit of an overview of M-Files. I wanted to do this kind of demonstration, give you an overview of, you know, the look and feel of the solution. If you are looking for a bit more of a detailed introduction, then please again get in touch with your KM rep, and they'll be able to hopefully loop us in, and we can have a kind of one-to-one conversation about how M-Files can fit in within your organization and for your customers. So here I'm logged in to the desktop client. So you can see here on the left-hand side, I've got a list of what we call views. Now, where I was talking about metadata, let me just find a document here. We're using metadata to populate these views. So this is, it's almost like I'm trawling through a traditional kind of file tree or structure when I'm searching for information in M-Files using a view. And that's more for the purpose of kind of user adoption. So I can see the trail here. So I can see the file path. I found this particular document by searching for documents, by customer, searching for the customer, and then I'm then presented with a list of all documents relating to that customer. What you can see here on the right-hand side is then the document I've clicked on and its related metadata. So the metadata is dynamically changing based on the class. So this is the overarching property, which kind of influences everything else within this metadata card. So when I'm selecting contractor agreement, it's then going to give me metadata properties that are relevant to that class. So I've got the agreement title here, the project it relates to, who the agreement owner is. Obviously, this is just demo user for the purpose of the demo. Who the approver is, same again. Who the customer is, contact person, and we can really go into detail as, you know, in terms of what we record as metadata against this document. I'm also able to preview the document on the right-hand side here. So I can have a look at what this document is actually for. So when we're using these views, it's not looking at a particular location to find the document that you're looking for. It's, like I said, using metadata to populate that. So I searched by customer last time. This time I want to search for maybe the same document, but by customer, project, and then maybe the class of document. So I can then find, the same documents in a more segregated way, but I'm finding the same documents again, but just in the way that I want to find them. So again, we're not reliant on location or knowing where something is. We're using the metadata to populate the right information to the user. So these are views, essentially saved searches. So I can set these views up and configure these as I like. Obviously, within the demo system, we just put together some, standard views. I can have a project view. From a HR perspective, I can manage employees here. Really, it's more about you kind of, I guess, understanding the requirements of the customer and implementing views that are going to matter to them. How do they want to find content? What content do they want to find? So continuing the tour of just the initial interface. So we've got the recent tab, so any documents that I've interacted with recently are going to show here. Any workflow tasks or things that have been assigned to me will be shown in the Assign tab. I can also see documents that are checked out to me. So I've got a couple of images there. Now, getting content into M-Files is simple. So we provide, obviously with our integration capabilities, us being able to integrate with third-party applications such as maybe a CRM, an ERP, even a network drive or SharePoint. We have a number of different ways that we can ingest content into M-Files. So we can use, an intermediary kind of folder where, it's linked to maybe a scanner. You scan in the document, hits the folder, we're polling that, we pull that into M-Files automatically. We're able to save content into M-Files using other applications. So as an example, I'm in Outlook here, and just speaking to that previous slide I stated how we're embedded with the Microsoft suite of products. I've got an M-Files tab. I can save to M-Files. I can choose the vault I want to save into. I can strip off the attachments, and I can do that all from Outlook. Very similar from Word, so I can open documents from here, stored in M-Files. I can save to M-Files. I can search M-Files as well. I can also very simply just drag and drop a document. So for the purpose of the demonstration, that's what I'm going to do. So I want to create that document. Now, when talking about the AI piece, you can see here it's analyzing the document here. And in the initial stages of implementation, the kind of use of the solution, you need to maybe start teaching the AI how you categorize information as an organization. So here, it's not been able to find the class at this stage. So right now, it's looked through the content and decided I'm not sure about it. So we can just teach it here. I can start typing in what it is, so contractor agreement, or I can use the drop down where we've included all the classes an organization might want to manage. If I help it along and state this is a contractor agreement, what it's going to do is it's going to dynamically change the metadata card, so include all the properties we would want as an organization for a contractor agreement. It's going to state with the asterisk what's mandatory, so I'll just type in test there. But what you'll see here is it's also making suggestions based on the content. So here it believes, okay, this is a contractor agreement. You've helped me with that. I believe it's now for this project. So it's found logo design / ESTT project in the content. I can click that. And then it's going to state it can fill out a lot of the metadata within this card automatically based on that project. So if I say yes, and I agree with that, it's then going to fill in who the customer is and who the contact person is for that customer. What I can just do here is just type in demo user as the content approver, and then that's completed. So I can then create that document. I can choose to open it for editing straight away and create it, or I can just check it into M-Files immediately. I'm just going to check it in immediately here. That document is now in M-Files and can be, again, based on permissions, be searched for and retrieved by users. So it's as simple as that. Now, what I've done there is I've taught the system how I index those contracts or agreements over a sample size. You know, it can be as small as like 10 documents, 20 documents. Usually the kind of good hit mark is around 50 documents. That process is going to become more and more automated over time. And so the automation, you know, the kind of manual heavy lifting will start really dropping off as time goes on, as you process more documents through M-Files. If I find that document here, I can see the metadata and I can start pushing that through its workflow state. Now that's just a very kind of simple overview of M-Files and the desktop interface. Like I said before, there's different interfaces for M-Files included within each subscription. So you get the desktop client, which is this one. We've got the web client, which is accessed via any commonly used web browser, and we've also got a mobile application, so you can download that via the App Store, iOS Store, or the Play Store for Android. Now, one more thing I wanted to take you through is HubShare. So we've got the content now into M-Files. What about presenting content out to external parties? So what I've done for the demonstration today is just put together a short demo around HubShare. So initially, an external user, when they're invited to participate in this portal, they'll receive a registration email. They can then set up their own username, their own password, and then it's down to the organization to then manage what's being shared with the client. So we can do that again based on permissions, and this is where the metadata driven approach really benefits us, because we can just use that metadata to automatically push information out to external parties. And you know, they're able to then self-serve and then find the documents that are relevant to them. Now, what we've got here is the front page after they log in. So we're able to include a number of what we call different widgets. So we've got the Twitter feed here on the left-hand side. I've just drawn that in from Konica Minolta GB. We've also got an embedded video. So some customers implement a video for maybe the use of the hub. So that gives them an intro to how to navigate, what are the features, the functions, troubleshooting and things like that. Also, I've just got an introductory video from the KM YouTube, which we can just play. Come out of that. That can play embedded as well. I've also got a short kind of simple form here, so I can arrange a callback. So I could type in my name, put in my number. Maybe it's for a support ticket. I can save that. And then that's going to actually filter through to our internal M-File system as a callback object. So we're not just managing documents within M-Files, we can manage data objects that aren't document related. Also, I can include useful links. So I can point the external party to assets that may be of use to them. We've just got here again a web page on KM's website. We've also got the partner program there that we can point them to. And also I've got a to-do list. So, I've followed the useful links. I can click that off. I've checked the embedded Twitter feed and I've watched the video. So that's all ticked off for my own external user to-do list. But the powerful thing is that we can really draw documents in from M-Files, but allow also external parties to impact maybe internal workflow. So here, as an example, I know there's only one document. In reality, this would be a list. So I can see documents that relate to me as an external user. I can view that document. I can create annotations, underlines, and things like that. I can also stamp documents as an external user, and also I can create, signature lines as well. So I can create a signature as part of maybe a contract process or something like that. We're able to limit the functionality available to external users here as well. So it's giving them the option to print at the moment, also download. We can remove anything in here that you as an organization or a client organization will want to remove for external parties. Also, another thing is that I can upload information. So I can browse to a local space as an example. I'll just pick that as an example there. I can create a title for it. I can hit create, and that's going to upload to an M-file, to an M-files instance, so the client's M-files instance. Now we can have that impact a workflow, so that's vetted before being added to the repository. So you don't want, every external party just being able to upload information to M-files. You might want a kind of gate in the middle. And so we have, a lot of organizations that actually choose to have that enter a workflow, go through a 4i check, ensure that the metadata is correct for the document or, whatever it is they're uploading, and then it will then be added to the M-files repository after that. What you can also notice is that it's all branded and it's very quick and easy to set that up. So I can go into configuration and style. And if I just navigate to pictures, it's just about me kind of uploading the logos for that organization. Now we can create templates that are created, so you're not having to create these hubs, client by client. We have M-files do that for you. It's just about creating those templates, so we can add the logo automatically. We can send out the registration emails to users automatically. We can have the formats changed and the widgets changed, so they're relevant to that end user. Everything can be controlled within M-files, but again, I don't want to go into too much detail. I think I'm running out of time. If there's something that you'd like to explore in a bit more detail, have any questions, obviously, please do let us know. So hopefully that's given you based on the time, a good overview of M-files, how it can work. Obviously, there's a lot more to it. It's an all-encompassing information management solution. So if there is a use case that you believe M-files might be able to apply for, then please do ask the question, let your KM rep know. We'll be happy to kind of get on a call with you, discuss the capabilities of M-files and where it can fit in, and take you through the solution in a bit more detail. Just the last slide from me. So just some kind of common questions. What size of organization can benefit from M-files? We can go with 5 user systems as a minimum, so 5 named users as an example, and it really does stretch and expand up to thousands of users. So we've got organizations at either end of the spectrum, so don't be afraid of M-files thinking it's just another on-base. It's got to be a huge implementation for it to be worthwhile. We can implement M-files for small instances as well. What are the common use cases? So overarching DMS, obviously, so managing documents. We've got contracts management, HR processing, project management, case management, AP to a point. But there's a number of different use cases and templates that we've provided. So you don't have to necessarily start from scratch and build M-files from the ground up. We've got a number of different templates that we can provide. If you've got a use case that you'd like to talk about, again, please do get in touch. What industries is M-files present in? Most. So we have shifted focus from a direct perspective on professional services. So we've got a lot of accountancy firms now, law firms to a point, manufacturing, construction engineering, financial services. Again, we've got case studies in all industries. So again, if you'd like to explore those, let us know. Is M-files on-premise or cloud-based? It can be on-premise. It can be provided within our own cloud, which is provided using the Azure environment. We can also provide M-files via a hybrid environment, so we can implement it within a private cloud. We really kind of aim to be flexible around a client's deployment requirements. what support can we receive from M-Files? So again, we're more than happy to get involved in client engagements. Please do, again, get in touch with the KM rep if you're interested in involving us and it would like us to get involved and provide an overview of M-Files and help you do that discovery up front as well. In terms of what to look and ask for, are documents within a client organization location based? So are they on a network drive? Are they in SharePoint? Don't worry if you come across SharePoint. There's a reason why we integrate with SharePoint. We're able to enhance SharePoint, not necessarily always about kind of ripping out and replacing. So, you know, as you saw with Outlook and Microsoft Word, Excel, we're able to embed within these applications and just have M-File supporting in the background with the permission-based information management, metadata-driven management systems. So yeah, don't feel afraid to approach clients that are already using SharePoint or something similar. Is manual processing existent within the business? You know, M-Files is able to automate processes, positively impacting processing times. Does the business share information with external parties? If so, are they doing that via email? That's obviously not secure. They're duplicating documents on their IT infrastructure. There's a more effective way of doing that, obviously, as I've shown you with HubShare. SharePoint, I've covered that. Does the organization widely use Microsoft applications? So Word, Excel, usually the answer to that is going to be yes. How are they managing the documents after they're created? How are they managing their spreadsheets? How are they managing their contracts? If they don't have a solution to support them, then again, M-Files could be a good fit. And we use the SPICE model when we're kind of scoping out an opportunity. So SPICE stands for understanding the situation. What's the pain? What's the positive impact of introducing something like M-Files? Is there a critical event for the CE? And what is the decision process? If you're able to kind of define those things, then the opportunity can become real very quickly. Again, that's something that we can assist with should you want to involve us. Thank you.
So let's see if we can make it larger. No. So the invoice processing, it's our own platform, it's our own IP that we actually use for this. The reason why we set this up, there's a number of reasons for attacking this part of the market. A couple of stats here for you. It's about 80% of time is spent in the AP team actually searching for the right documents. So you've got purchase orders, you've got receipts of delivery, you've got the invoices coming in, and a lot of their time is spent chasing around actually trying to close that business. Around half of businesses are still running a manual invoicing solution. So that's documents held in filing cabinets, documents that are emailed round to people, chasing up on information, etc. So it is very, very manual, and there's still 50% of companies out there, and that 50% isn't just small companies. I've dealt with very large organizations, life care organizations that are still running a spreadsheet for all of their purchase orders. So there's a big market out there. And the average time, I usually question this with new clients and ask them about the time it takes for an invoice that enters into their business to actually be visible to the actual business and to the finance teams and extended management who have to authorize. And that's around 5 to 8 days is the industry standard. Most clients agree to those figures. Some even say it's longer, the time taken for an invoice actually to be registered within their organization. And a lot of invoices end up on paper. Now that includes the invoices that are coming in electronically. So companies are very good at sort of setting up an email address that if you've got an invoice that's got to be sent to a company, you can send it through to that email address. First thing that they do is they print it out. Quite handy if you're a print manufacturer as well, but it doesn't lend well for the efficiency. So what you're actually doing is you're taking something that's already received electronically, you're now printing it so that you can print out all of your invoices, get a ruler, calculator and a highlighter pen and start going through and actually looking at the figures on an invoice to check that they're correct. So the invoice processing steps, what happens here with this platform it's a cloud solution. So first and foremost, it's there to deal with invoices. What we do and perform here is what they call a three-way match. That means a purchase order is raised, that's the first part, an invoice is received by the company, and then the team within finance will actually check to see whether those goods have arrived. So I've ordered a 5K laptop, I've had the purchase order authorized, that's gone out, its supplier sent that in, and I've received it. I'll get notification to say, have you received that laptop? And I'll confirm that, and that goes back into the system. So when that invoice comes in, the system can automatically match the purchase order to the invoice to the goods receipting and pass all of that data through to their finance system. So this is how the system builds up. Those invoices that arrive into the company, as I mentioned earlier, they may have that as an email. When that comes into the business, we can monitor that email address, and we can import those images that come into that mailbox. Whether that's a Word attachment, PDF, etc., we can take that in and we'll have that as an invoice that's coming into the business. What we'll then do is we'll perform that match and we'll export the information, images as well if they want it, but that data goes to the client's back-end finance system. So whether they're using Sage, Sun, or whatever finance system in the background, we'll export that data into that finance system together with an image. Now, if they don't want the images held within their finance system, SAP, for example, they don't want those images in there, we can even export a link so that someone within the finance system can click on that link and actually get to an image that is stored within our system. And all of these images are stored for the required period. So it will self-manage once you set this up to store the purchase order information, invoice information, and receipting for 7 years, which is the standard. And after that time, it will purge from the system. So for audit purposes, everything is there for the last 7 years, and it's automatically regulating itself and purging data out of the system once it's gone past its expire date. Now, a lot of companies we speak to, they say, oh, we've got our own purchase order process, or we've got our own goods receipting process. Not an issue at all. What we would do if the client has a PO process and they're quite happy with it and they want to use that, we will link into that and pull that information in. So that means we're quite versatile in how we put this solution together. If they've got the PO or they've got a goods receipting, if they're, have a fairly robust goods inwards area and they've got that information coming in as to what's being delivered, we'll pick up on that so that we can perform the actual match on that. So our focus really is on those 3 documents that you see in the screen above you. And traditionally, and when we're going into clients, they'll have a team of what we call FTEs, full-time employees. These are people who their job is to deal with all of those 3 documents in there. So that's 100% of their time is spent dealing with purchase orders, making sure they're authorized, entering those into the system, receiving the invoice, then chasing around for the goods receipting to see that it's been received and they can actually pay it. When we talk to clients initially, we ask them, what's the percentage of good invoices do you get? And by good invoice, I've got that 5K invoice that's coming for a laptop. The PO, it matches the PO, so that's good, and it's been receipted. That's what we call a good invoice, a good transaction on that. Typically, companies should be at least above 60% on that. Companies that are getting invoices that don't match their POs, there's something going wrong there. And when they realize that those goods are coming in and the invoices are coming in as a part of those goods being received and being matched, what we're doing is we're taking those documents and we're matching these. Now, what that then means is that, let's say that they're at 60% of their invoices, once this system's installed, the finance team aren't having to deal with. What they will deal with are the exceptions. So that's where you don't get a match. An invoice comes in where the totals or subtotals or tax doesn't match. It could be rejected because it's actually got a value in there. It's not a recognized supplier, whatever reason, that's an exception. And you'll see in the graphic at the bottom, that drastically reduces the time on the finance team needed to actually process those documents through. That releases a massive amount of time in the finance team where they can then work doing proper finance functions, dealing with suppliers, dealing with queries, etc., dealing with other finance areas within the business, and not being there as a keyboard warrior, going through entering data and checking details on that. So how does the actual solution work? That invoice that is received, the first thing that we'll do is we'll OCR the actual document. That means that we'll go through and we'll read everything that is on that page to recognize the actual figures, subtotals, taxations, supplier details, etc. What we'll then do with that is we'll pass that through into our platform process to start processing those documents. Now, built into this process, if there is an OCR issue, so say this is a document that's coming in, it's fairly poor quality, we set the barrier for this very high. So if we have even a slightest concern that a character is not easy to be read, we'll pass it off to our team based out in Sophia, who will manually go and check the image to correct what that character is meant to be. So if we can see that we're not sure in here if this is a 1 or a 7, we can then zoom in and we can check that. That happens behind the scenes. That's part of the process, it's part of the solution, and we provide that. And that happens behind the scenes. We'll do any correction on that and push the actual image through and the data through into platform to carry on. So what that means is that the document that you get on the left then becomes a document, or the details on the right. Each one of those fields will be recognized, supplier information, and we don't just take the information to actually as read on the actual document. If it's got 1 unit at £10 equals £10, we perform those calculations to make sure that it's correct, including the VAT, including discounts. So what does it look like when you actually go into the solution? The first thing that people are obviously concerned about is, how many people will they need licenses for? And the licenses for the system are free. It's a transactional process, the platform. You pay for the clicks that go through on the actual platform. So each one of those 3 documents constitutes an actual click in there. So you've got an invoice click. If you're using the PO, you've got a click for that, and if you're using goods receipting, you've got a click for that as well, and that's invoiced at the end of the month. So you're only paying for what you go through on that. And the way that we set the system up is you set up groups, and a group is access into platform for the depth of access. So someone that's in the finance team, finance manager, would have access across all of platform. But someone like, say, one of the managers would only have access into the areas that they need to approve. So they might have approval functions for POs that get routed through to them, and that's all that they see. So when we set this up, we actually set up groups for the client. And what they can then do is adding and removing people is as simple as going in there and attaching them to a group or groups. So as someone progresses through the company, going in from maybe AP clerk, they'll have certain access. As they progress through the company and through the finance system, they will actually be granted more powers to actually deal with platform. Consequently, if someone leaves the company, it's a simple case of going in, pressing delete, and that person's purged from the system. Now remember, being a cloud solution, it's available 24/7. So whether someone's working from the office or working from home, or approving purchase orders that are pushed out to them on their mobile or tablet while they're out traveling, they'll have access to the system throughout all of this. So the actual login screen is the same for everyone. The little box at the very top there, you'll see that they can go in and put their ID in there and their passwords, which we allocate to this. And then they'll have what we call a landing page. And there's 2 examples here of a landing page that you can see. And this goes into the areas where I mentioned earlier about how much depth and access you have to the system. So on the right-hand side, you've got someone that has a minimal access into the system. They could be a manager, and they can just see the POs that have been sent to them for approval. Consequently, on the left-hand side, you've got someone that's probably the AP manager, and you can see they have a lot more accessibility into the system, and they've got a higher helicopter view of actually what's going in within the organization. So this is their snapshot into the system very quickly to see what's allocated to them or their teams and what's live in the system at this very moment in time. So what happens when you go through to approve an invoice? When an invoice is processed through the system, as I mentioned earlier, you have the option here to actually go through and it will actually calculate all of those areas and boxes on the screen that you see. What you can see at the bottom is where it highlights something in red. So this is what has been flagged as an exception, and it'll draw you to it to say that the gross total doesn't match what's on the screen. Now, what they can do, if they need to see the original invoice, top right hand corner, you can see where it says original invoice. They can click on this and they can get back to the original invoice to actually see that, and then flick back to the screen to deal with it. So at any time, if they need to see the original invoice that came in to verify the content that they're receiving, they can click on that to see it. Consequently, if you have more than one problem with an invoice, we don't just sort of say, oh, here's a problem and here's another one. We'll go through and we'll find all the problems that we have with that invoice. And you can see here, there's 3 items that are labeled in there. This could be anything that's set up as the business rules, down to ledger coding, tax coding used wrong, supplier information. And on the left-hand side, you can see where you've got a number of options here. The user, the finance user in here, has a number of options available to them. It could be something just very quickly that they need to seek approval for, could be above their pay grade, they can't deal with this and they need to escalate it to their manager. It could be a simple rejection. So this could be something where they've got a supplier that they've discontinued and they stopped business with them the previous month. 2 months later, they've got an invoice that's come in and they can see that, hang on, we don't deal with this company anymore. So that's a fault on the supplier's part and they can reject it, and it'll email it back and say this has been rejected. You're not a supplier. Other settings that you can do within the system relate to how you want to operate if you're using these 3 areas of platform. So we mentioned about the POs and the received notes and the invoices. You have here the ability to go in and set certain areas or parameters for you as the user. I won't go through all of these, you can see them on the screen, but things like being able to park something for a set number of days. So if an invoice has come in, say you've raised an invoice very close to the end of the month and you sent the purchase order out, the supplier might have invoiced you straight away to get that in for that month, but we'll see that there's no goods receipting for this. So when that comes in, you can match it, it'll throw it up as an exception saying there's no goods receipting for this. The AP clerk can actually say, okay, I can see they've invoiced this really quick for this. What will I do? I'll park that. And platform will put it on the sidelines, waiting for that goods receipting. And over the set period, which you can see here at the moment, top left, you can see is 3 days. At 3 days time, it'll pull that back out and say, have we got the goods receipting? Yes, great, matched. Send it through to the finance system. If not, it'll flag it again and say, we haven't got a receipt for this actually being delivered. You can then choose to park it or investigate it further. So it gives you a lot of ability to actually see what's going through the system. You can get into the system to actually start pulling that data out into various charts, etc., to actually generate reports against different parts of the business or the groups to see what POs are outstanding for approval, and you can actually see what invoices, etc., are in dispute. But where it really wins is where someone's called in or someone's questioned something and you need to actually get to documents. You can now start going in and drilling into the system to see what's outstanding. So you can see, so if I've raised that PO for that laptop that I talked about earlier, and I'm waiting for Jamie to approve it for me, I can see where that is in the process. And I can see, well, hang on, Jamie hasn't approved that yet. I can chase up for my approval for my purchase order, or it might be that Jamie's off, and the system can actually then be set up so that if Jamie's on holiday and not available and doesn't respond after 2 to 3 days, it can move it on to Jamie's manager or next in command, who can then approve that purchase order. But me as the purchase order, the person that's raised it, I can get into the system to actually see where things are and what status my purchase order is for my goods that I'm waiting to order. If you need to get into any part of the system, as I mentioned, all of the images are stored within the system. So here you can see where, you know, we're here and we're looking for goods receipting at the moment. It could be POs, it could be invoices, but you can put your criteria in to search for it. And then when you click on any one of those, you can pull that document back and print it if you want. So if you've got a supplier who's phoned up and they can't, they haven't been paid for their invoice yet, you can very quickly go in, look against all of the outstanding invoices for that supplier, or even just do it by date and pull up the latest ones. And you can then say, yes, we've received the invoice, but we haven't got the goods in yet. We haven't got a goods receipt in. Oh, okay, it has been dispatched. Let us know when that's been received. So you know, you can do all of this without having to get up from your desk and go across to a filing cabinet. Very important if you've got people that are now working from home. Visibility in the system comes about through a number of different, I call these Pac-Man charts, but what you'll see there is like a traffic light system that's used, and those red dots move around the system, showing you where there's delays in the system. Clicking on any one of those red dots will tell you what's in that traffic queue. Now, I mentioned earlier that, you know, if I've raised a PO and Jamie's got to authorize that, if Jamie's not about, I can then see that that's where that PO is waiting. So that's in a traffic jam waiting for Jamie to approve. Now, it might be Jamie's got 5 of these in here. The AP manager can go into this system and look at it and say, well, okay, I can tell Jamie's out of the country. He's not going to be approving these because he's traveling. So what they can do is they can manually push these on to the next person in command to approve the purchase orders. Now, the AP manager can't approve those purchase orders because that AP manager doesn't have the authority for that PO. So they can see what the traffic jam is, they can go into it, click on it, and it'll list it at the bottom. They can then move it manually and say, I want to now move this on to the next person in command to get these purchase orders chased through. Similarly, where they got other queries that might be on an invoice, they can actually see if they're still waiting for people within the company to feedback and actually escalate it. Areas that we get asked about with the solution, you'll see down here down the left hand side. Can it do different currencies? Yes, you know, it'll cover, you know, your standard currencies that you have out there, or trading currencies, so whether you're dealing with euros, dollars, sterling, etc. You can have delivery sites set up, so you might be a company but with 5 different delivery sites across the country, in which case you actually want to track what's being delivered, or PODs coming in from different delivery sites, because I'm ordering something for delivery to, say, the site in Edinburgh, so I need to know that that's been received there. You can have different divisions, whether that's a geographical split within the company for parts of the UK, parts of Europe, or whether that is a split within different business sections within the company. So you may have a company that we're dealing with one at the moment, and they have 2 trading bodies within their company, and they want that set up differently so they can separate those out. Ledger codings, etc., and supplier information. We don't ask that the client has to have 2 sets of data that they have to manage here. So if they've got a CRM system or a finance system and that has all of their supplier information in their ledger codings, what we do is we link up to that and import that. And then we'll set up an update maybe every 24 hours, because ledger codes don't change and suppliers don't change that often. But we can set that up at a predetermined time where their finance system will export that data again, and our system will go through and look for any changes. So as I mentioned earlier, where you get a supplier who gets dropped by the company, or a supplier merges or name change, you can update that information so that the platform has that latest information that's coming in. So if a supplier is dropped, the moment any other invoices come in from that supplier after that closure of that trading window, they will get raised up as an exception. So that's a very quick snapshot and a run through of platform. If we get engaged with a client who actually wants to see a more in-depth use of platform, we can run an actual demonstration of it. What we have to do then is we have to kind of put problems into the system, because obviously if something matches, there's not a lot to see because it processes and puts that through. But quite often people want to see, well, okay, if an invoice has come in, how's that going to be presented to me and how do I deal with it? and we can run them through that. But generally, the overview gives people in the finance team a good indication of what what they will get to see, how they will get to use it, and more importantly, the features and functions that they will get to actually use within the system. Thank you.
Thanks, Roy. We don't have any questions in the question box or in the chat box at the moment. But because we had the issue with the presentation, we'll make sure that the slides are available for everybody tomorrow, and you can all access them and the recording as we move forward. So unless there's any other questions that drop into the box, unless any of the presenters have got anything else to say, I'd just like to thank you all for your time once again, and have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.